Good heavens. Fancy finding a pearl like that in an oyster like this? Well, two things wrong with that theory. Firstly, oysters that you eat in restaurants don't really produce pearls of this kind. And secondly, that's not a real pearl. It's a thing called an Osmina pearl. Very nice to look at, but not a pearl at all. Turn it over, and there's a white bit on the bottom. And if you look at the side of it, you find just in the middle there's a sort of kink. In fact, it's part of a shell. So is a pearl in a way. But this is part of a real shell, the pearly nautilus. Right in the middle there, where the shell curls around, if you knock off all those flanges and polish the shell up and cut it square on the bottom, you'll end up with what we had there, an Osmina pearl. Not a pearl at all, just part of a mother of pearly shell. Nonetheless, good to look at, and you can make your own at home. Now, in Australia, we don't have a lot of spare pearly nautiluses, but we do have a lot of shells that have that pearly layer. For example, these. They're a very common Australian shell. They are a green turban shell. But you can do this little trick with any shell that has a mother of pearl layer. You can see just in there, where the shell's worn, there's a bit of mother of pearl. If you take its baby brother, you can find that in the mouth of the shell, there's also mother of pearl, just in there. So anything that shows that mother of pearl finish, even if it has a coloured layer on top, will be good for this trick. Well, you have to eat the coloured surface off with acid. And so the acid doesn't get into the inside of the shell and chew it out, use a bit of plasticine, squash it flat, make a plug, and really seal that shell off. That's the baby sealed off, and here's its large counterpart. And I'll put a big plug of plasticine in there. That stops the acid getting in, and now you can chew away at the surface. Well, what do you use for acid? Vinegar. Nothing more or less. Or in fact, one thing more. That's ordinary vinegar, which you put into the jar there. And that is an acid, and that'll work on shells. But to make it a bit stronger, get some ordinary salt and add 1 or 2 teaspoons, or 1 or 2 salt measures. Here we go. There's 1 and 2. And if you shake that up so it dissolves in the vinegar, that makes a rather stronger acid. So if I drop the shells in, you'll see they start to fizz almost immediately. There we go. There's 1, little 1, and 2, big 1. Bubbles are forming on the surface. That outer coloured layer is being chewed away, and the acid will work its way through to the pearly layer. Well, you have to watch them all the time, for at least about 2 or 3 hours. Because if you go too far, they're going to end up like this, all chewed away and broken and no good to anybody. If you don't go far enough, they'll end up like this. A pearly layer coming through, but a lot of the outer colour left as well. Get them exactly right, and they'll be like this, or like that. Nice pearly finishes on an otherwise slightly mottled shell. The bit you want is really just that bulge on the outside. You want to grind the rest of the shell away. So you take them out of the acid, wash the acid off, and you're ready to work. And this is what you work them on. Good old wet and dry grinding paper. Your hardware store will have it. It's black and it's used with water. Never use it without. In fact, use it with water below and above. Water to stick it to the tabletop, preferably smooth. That stops it skidding around. And always water on top so that when you're grinding something, it doesn't clag up the grain of the paper. Well, let's take a shell. The bit we want is that smooth, shiny, pearly bit on top. Hold it on top and just work the rest away, grinding it down. And if you've got a really coarse paper to start with, really coarse, it'll chew into the shell in no time at all. Before you know where you are, you'll be left with that smooth bit poking out. Well, I've done that on several shells, and here they are, my own Osmina pearls. That's a big one there, and a little one there, tiny one there, and you notice 2 which are rather different and rather more interesting colour. The thing is, pearls are rather like opals. Back them with black and they'll look a bit more interesting. This one, part of a large shell, is hollow. And you can really see through it. But this one has had a bit of black felt pen lining the inside. And that makes all the difference to the colour. So do that if you think it's going to improve your pearls. The last thing you have to do is to copy the real one. I mean the real fake Osmina pearl. You see, stuck underneath is a bit of shell that's cut to fit. That's hard to do at home, but it's not hard to do with paper or cardboard or plastic. And what I've done over here, with my own little homemade Osmina, is to stick on a bit of old photographic film. There we are, underneath. And that's just cut to fit. It's thin, it's firm, and it seals the whole thing off. So if you do that with yours, you'll have your own set of Osmina pearls out of very ordinary shells.